Hey everyone, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our sweet summer cottage. Now, as you probably saw in the trailer, as well as the little thumbnail, it's a structure, a nice little vintage, old school cottage. And I've got all of my pieces cut out, as should you. And let's take a look at what we have here. Now, one thing that we wanted to do to make this structure nice and solid is add a layer of foam core to the base. So we're not actually creating a base, we're actually putting it inside of the base. Now this blue piece here is the little template. Now I've already cut mine out, it's right here. And I just did that by simply putting this template, and I used an edge where it was already pre-cut just to save myself some time. And I just had to make these cuts here, okay, with an X-Acto knife, razor blade, box cutter, whatever it is that you want to use. Just cut that out and have this ready to go. Okay, should fit this perfectly. If it's a little bit off, it's okay. It's actually a little bit smaller than it needs to be, and I'll show you why in a little bit here, but you definitely want to get one of those. First thing we're going to do, now this little structure has a little porch on it, and we have some little posts that we need to create. I've already pre-folded everything. There's a total of 6 of them. So you're going to do this 6 times, and it's actually very straightforward. We have one tab here. Okay, so we're going to start by just putting glue on the tab. The other side, it doesn't have little angles coming in, so that's how you know that this is the tab, because it's angled on the sides. This side here is just straight, it's just a box. Now the easiest way to do this is to actually do it flat. So I'm gonna join these two sides together first, just make sure that they're nice and aligned, and then you can actually just flatten it out. And don't mess up your tabs like I almost just did there. So just flattening it out, and now I can square it up. There we go. Okay, and then we've got 3 tabs and a little lid on both sides. So go ahead and just put a little bit of glue on the 3 tabs there. Okay, and I'm going to hit that with my finger just to make sure that I disperse the glue evenly on the tab, and then close it up. You're actually not even going to see the bottom or the top. They're going to be hidden, because they're going to be kind of, one is going to be inside of the soffit, and the other side is going to be in the base. Okay. So not a big deal if the top and bottom doesn't look perfect. All we need to make sure is that it's structurally sound and that it's keeping it nice and square. That's all we're really concerned about. Okay, just hitting that with my finger, closing the top, and just hold that for a few moments while it sets. Again, that looks pretty square to me. I'm happy with that. Okay, just like that. Just a long rectangle, dimensional rectangle. Okay, so we are going to repeat that process 5 more times just to create 5 of these, 6 of them total. Okay, so I'm going to put that off to the side. I don't need to do that. Actually, you know what? I'll do one more. Why not? Okay, so again, there's the tab. You've got the angled edges there. And get your glue on there. And I'm going to take that glue and just kind of brush it with my finger all the way out to the very edge, and then just kind of tuck it in there up against the opposite side, and then I'm just flattening it out. It's just a lot easier to use the strength of a table instead of trying to do it like this. You can, but you may end up warping or bending this thing out of shape, so let's not do that. Okay, there we go. Now we'll square it up. And we got the 3 tabs. Just a couple dots of glue. Hit it with your finger just to make sure you get it all the way out to the edges. And close it up. Hold it for a few seconds. And then by all means, you can use your table to do the rest of the work while you get the next set of 3 tabs covered with glue, so we can close the top. Just kind of dabbing that with my finger and close it up. Again, doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be square and structurally sound. Let that glue set. And there we go. Okay, so you're going to do this 4 more times. All right, next up, we're going to put together some of our floral. We've got this beautiful bit of floral that's going to go over the entryway, and it's comprised of 3 layers. We've got the back layer, the middle layer, and then the top layer. So we're going to start with this layer here, and we've got a lot of little details here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this with some dots throughout, and that will keep the glue, it'll keep the glue wet so it doesn't dry as quick. Sometimes the lines, when you put lines on, the glue tends to be thinner and it has a tendency to dry out a lot faster. So little dots help it kind of stay wet longer. Just want to line that up as accurately as you can with the previous layer. Okay, there we go, just like that. Got some beautiful little flowers showing through there. And then we're going to take this top layer, and you can see that there's little cutouts here for some leaves. I would probably take and just peel these back a little bit now so that we don't accidentally get glue on them as we're gluing it to the 2 layers that we've already assembled. Just get those out of the way, and that also adds a little bit of interest and dimension to this piece as well. So just get those out of the way, and just like I did the first time, I'm just going to use a series of little dots. Each little dot is going to do a lot of work here, holding this thing together. Don't worry about getting every little inch of this covered. We don't need to worry about that, but definitely focus on the tips, the ends, and then just a little bit in the center as well. That ought to do it. Just like that. And maybe one more there. Okay. And just want to, as accurately as possible, get that lined up. There we go. Take your time. And try not to press down on the little leaves that we have, that we pulled up just a moment ago. Those little dimensional guys. There we go. You can actually. We didn't put any glue on them, so it's not a big deal. It's just more work later. If you can avoid them, I would definitely recommend it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that is that. Got that done. We can put that off to the side for now. Okay, we've got a couple little planters that we need to assemble. So find those pieces. Find these pieces. And then also these pieces. Okay, and I think that's all we need. Got 3 layers there, yep. No, actually there should be 4 layers. There we go. There's that, and there's that. Okay, so we're going to take our, in my case, the purple layer, and find the correct one. They're mirror images of themselves, so this purple piece will fit on this one, but it won't fit on this one because it's a mirror. Okay, so we're going to start with this, and let's get our glue on here. Just go easy on the glue here. No need to overdo it. Okay, and match up the little detailed pieces, and by doing that, the purple part of the planter should create a nice little border around the, I believe that's a grapefruit color. Could be wrong. Okay, next layer is this green layer here. So we're going to put that down like so. So go ahead and get your glue on there. So in my mind, when we're doing this, I want to kind of get rid of all the little pieces as much as I can, just to kind of simplify things. I know that sometimes projects like this can be a little overwhelming because there's so many little pieces, but if we just take it one step at a time, do things methodically, like a little assembly line, before you know it, we'll be done here. Okay, So find the corresponding piece for this. As you'll notice here, this one will not fit. The bottom little details don't match up. So just make sure you grab the right one and throw just some dots of glue on there. Don't need to overdo it. Okay. And I'm matching it up with the bottom portion of the plant. The rest of it should then kind of fall into place. And that makes a really beautiful dimensional little piece there. Okay, so we're going to repeat that process one more time with the other plant. I wish my plants looked this good in the front. I've got an urn, and I still haven't put anything in it this season. It's almost as if I'm just waiting for fall. I tried growing my own stuff this year, and that was a fail. The garden was doing great until we left for vacation. We're out two weekends in a row, and that just went to a hand basket. And that's life, I guess. Hey, at least I'm crafting. Okay, so we've got that one, and that just leaves one more piece, this guy here. And as you probably notice, I did do just some slight inking on all of these pieces, just to kind of jazz them up a little bit so they don't look so flat. Okay, so there's that. Just try to match that up and line it up as accurately as you can. And it's never too late to hit the outer part of the plant here with a little extra ink if you so desire to. Okay. All right, so that's that. We've got this. And let's see, what else can we put together here? There are a series of little windows. That's what we're going to do next. But I have to do a little bit of embossing first. So actually, while we're doing this, I may as well just show you. We've got a little rug, like an entryway rug. And it's 2 layers. We've got this layer here and then this layer here. I've actually inked that, and we're gonna run a tiny dot embossing folder through it. For those of you that don't emboss, I definitely recommend it. Okay, so here's my tiny dot embossing folder, and I'll just pop that in there. Try to kind of keep it straight. If you want, you can actually kind of put it all the way in there up to the edge and just bring it down a tad. Just make sure you've got some dots on there. Okay, and putting it into a little carrier, the plates. And you can go over to the other camera and you just run it through. And it applies pressure so that it embosses the little piece there. And you can see what that looks like. Okay, so we're going to glue that into place. Now, I also wanted to do, I've got these little grasses here. These are a nice little touch for the entryway, and I have a special folder for that. It's called Crackle. I believe it's by, I want to say that it's by Doris. Okay, so that is the little Crackle embossing folder, and that is by Doris. I was right. I'm gonna run that through and just get that prepped. And I did just kind of hit the tips of the grass there with a little bit of green, just to kind of give it a two-toned effect. Okay, and that's really all it does. You can see that. It just kind of adds a little bit of interest to the piece. Okay, and then there's one more little section. It's this section here that I want to kind of create the illusion of siding on. Okay, and that involves having a folder like this. Okay, so it's one of these. I think I'm going to go with this one because the lines are a little bit closer together. Now, this is where I kind of get worried a little bit. These folders that are like this tend to really, well, they put the paper through the ringer. They really test the paper, and sometimes it causes the paper to crack. Now, this is not your standard AC cardstock. This has like a pearlescent sort of feel about it, or look. and I'm thinking that maybe it's going to be a little bit stronger. So I just kind of use the little lines on here to line this up and then just pop it into place so that it stays in place. Now, if this doesn't work with my Cuttle Bug, because the Cuttle Bug tends to apply a lot of pressure. If it ends up cracking the paper, I'm going to end up recutting this and using my Sizzix Texture Boutique embossing folder or machine, because it doesn't put down as much pressure, which also means that you don't get as nice and as deep of an embossing, but that actually worked out perfect. And I had a feeling it would because of the quality of the paper. And you can see how nice that looks, and it really does look like siding, okay? Now, if you look very closely, you can see how the paper was a little bit stressed, but overall, I think it looks great. So that was kind of a gamble, but it worked out, okay? So I've got that in place. I've got that all done. And I'm gonna go ahead and at least just get this part glued together to get my little entryway rug ready to go. And then we can begin working on the base. Okay, so we're just gonna pop that right in there, get it nice and centered, and voila. See how cool that looks? Okay, so off camera there, I finished putting these little windows together. I also ran these through an embossing machine. So there's a total of 4 of these. And what we're gonna do is you're gonna put glue on the back of just this section here, just the little shutters. And I'm just hitting it with my finger and find the corresponding piece and pop it right on there. Get it nice and centered so that the perimeter doesn't show through from this side. You want to just be able to see the inside portion here. Okay, so again, I've done that a total of 3 times for the 3 other windows. You're going to do the same just to get those ready. Again, I'm just kind of hitting it with my finger, thin it out so I don't get a giant glue explosion everywhere. And getting that nice and centered. And if it helps, you can definitely fold it over onto itself and just press down. Okay, but that's what it should look like. And you should have a total of 4 of these. Okay, as you can see here, I've got my rug, I've got my plants, I've got my little grasses already. There's a little fold mark there. So just be aware of that. I've got the planters. And now we have the front door. We'll put that together real quick. There's 2 layers, just to kind of give it a 2-tone effect. And they're gonna go like this. You just wanna match these up with the existing cutouts. It should be flush at the bottom. So let's do that real quick. And that eliminates a ton of little pieces so that we can just primarily focus on the structure. Okay, so do your best to get that nice and aligned and nice and flush at the bottom, like so. Press that down. Then we have a nice overlay that goes on top of that, literally right on top of it. And that's your focal point there, the little cutout where the vellum's gonna be. We're gonna put the vellum inside of the actual structure of the house, so we don't need to worry about it right now. But let's get this nice and lined up. And then we'll do the other side of the door. Again, just make sure that that's nice and flush at the bottom. Because when we put this on the actual house, we don't want to run into any problems with that. Okay, so that looks nice. Get the other half of this going. I think this one will be a wonderful little fall or Christmas house as well. I can see many of you adapting these and maybe even adding it to your existing little villages. I've seen some really nice paper villages made from various structures from our website. You guys are really, really creative when it comes to that stuff. I actually was planning to, and I still may do it, depending on how all the behind the scenes stuff goes with the website. Still doing work on that. but I wanted to make myself a little Halloween village, kind of like a smaller scale version. Thought it would be cool. Got a lot of cool ideas in my head, just a matter of finding the time to actually get it done. There we go. Okay, so the door's ready, the windows are ready. Pretty much everything we can do up to this point, aside from working on the actual structure, I believe we've done. So we're gonna put all this stuff off to the side, and we're gonna start with our base. Okay, so with the base, and okay, that's the base there, that's part of it anyway. And then we have this with a B on it, and then there's this piece here, which is essentially the same size. Because we do have some other pieces that kind of look like this, but you'll notice that this one is not the same size. It's like longer but shorter up here. And then this piece here has nothing to do with the base. As you can see, it's too small, so don't worry about that. Just find the three pieces that essentially are the same size as this section here with the tabs. And then we have these two little pieces, and you're gonna need your little foam core piece as well. Okay, so to get started on this, you'll notice that we have these two pieces here, okay? And these pieces are gonna go here and then here. We have to glue those on separately, and that's not a big deal. So what I'm actually gonna do is start by gluing this section together here. We've got a tiny little triangular tab, and I'm gonna glue that in place, and that's just gonna kind of help get the process started and get things lined up and dimensional, I guess, for lack of a better word. And that's gonna help with the alignment of the rest of the pieces. Okay, so go ahead and put your glue on this little triangular tab here. And I'm just gonna dab that with my finger, thin it out a little bit, and bring this piece in, whichever way it feels the most comfortable for you. Get that nice and lined up, nice and straight. Just hold that in place, give it a few seconds to set. We're just connecting these two corners here, or these two sides, to create a corner. Just like that. Okay, so it's already starting to kind of become dimensional. That looks nice and straight. Okay, so now we're going to take these pieces here and we're going to glue those into place. And I think the best thing to do is to take and get this little triangle glued into place, because that'll help determine the proper placement for the rest of it. So grab and put some glue on that little triangular tab and just tuck that into place up against this guy here, just like that. And just hold that in place for a moment. Okay, just like that. And then, since it's a tab, it's anchored there, we can go ahead and put some glue on this tab here. And I'm going to run that glue out to the edge. We can pop that in right here and just glue that down right along the very edge of this structure here. Okay, that kind of came undone because I pushed it. That's okay though. I can fix that. See, I'm kind of going a little bit quicker than I'd like here. And what I'm doing here is just putting a little extra glue on that tab that we just worked on, because I nudged it before it was set and it kind of came undone. So I'm going to fix that real quick. Okay, just hold that for a second, let that set. You probably didn't do that because you're more careful. Okay, so now we got this tab in place. I'm going to actually put glue on this tab here. Okay, so we'll just throw a little bit of glue on this tab here. And this guy's coming out this way. So just line that up with the very edge, like so. And press that down into place. It's a little bit different than what we're used to, but that's okay. Okay, got that. So that looks pretty good. And then we've got this tab here that we're going to glue to the front. Okay. Just kind of put a little bit of glue on there, pull that in, line it up, and press and hold. Here we go. Be patient with that one. Okay, so now we've got a lot of sides that are nice and dimensional now, which should make this process even easier. So again, with this little corner piece, just make sure that you're not doing it this way. That's way too short and that's way too long. You want the long side here and the short side here. Okay, and just like I did before, I'm going to take and I'm going to glue this little triangular tab first. It's kind of at an angle there. Make sure it's flat and straight. Hit that with a little bit of glue, thin it out, spread it out, and get that glued to the inside of this piece here. Okay, if it helps, you can certainly just leave it on your table. I like to be able to see the very edges of it, so I'm just gonna kind of hold it up to my face here and just hold that in place. You can pull it out straight while you squeeze right there. And this time I'm going to be a little more patient because last time I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. Okay, now while I'm holding it, I'm going to apply my glue to this tab here. Spread that glue out, thin it out. Okay, and then bring it over. Line that up nicely right along the edge of the solid piece there. And then press down. You can press down from the inside to really get that into place. Perfect. Okay. Now we can pull this back and we'll put glue on this tab. Thin it out. Tuck that under. Okay, it might help to look at it from this angle just to make sure that you've got it nice and flush up against this large piece here, the very edge of it. There we go, press that down, and that just leaves one more little triangular tab here to close this up. You can see it there. If you can't get your glue nozzle in there, you can always just throw a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper and then just paint right on that tab. And that's fine too. There's no wrong way to do this. Okay, now we're just going to line that up and press and hold that in place, let that set, and we have our structure here. Okay, great. All right, so now this is where we're actually going to insert this piece. Now you'll notice when we pop this in, it really is just, you want to keep it, you do not want to obstruct these little holes for our posts. Okay, so just try to get that nice and centered. Now for the base here, we do actually need 2 layers of, this is I think 3/8 inch. Check your supply list for the actual thickness. Okay, but if you're using 3/8 inch, we do need to get two layers. Okay, and I know you guys think I'm crazy because I'm just using a straight blade, but it's okay. You guys are going to have a nice sharp X-Acto knife. I have an X-Acto knife, but it's dull and I want this to be nice and crisp, so I'm just using a razor blade. I've got some experience in packaging. I've been using razor blades all my life. Okay, so we've got 2 layers here. What we're going to do is we need to glue these 2 layers together. Now, I do not recommend using hot glue on this just because it's thick and it may make it too thick after we put it in there. Okay, so we've got 2 layers. They don't have to be perfect, just roughly right on top of each other is fine. Just like that. And then we're going to take this and we're going to glue this inside like so. Should be pretty much exactly the thickness we need it. Okay, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue on the bottom of this. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to stay in place, and that's plenty of glue. And pop that inside. Again, just make sure that we are not obstructing the little holes. Here we go, just like that. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to pull these tabs down because we need to close this up. We're going to close it up with this piece here, just the solid piece, and we've got this other piece that's going to go on top here just to kind of double layer it. So to get this piece on, we're going to start by anchoring it first. You're going to anchor it to one side, preferably the back. So go ahead and get your glue on the long tab there on the back. Spread that glue out, nice and thin. Tack it up a bit. And let's get this nice and lined up here. Nice and centered, right up to the very edge. And if you have a little bit of excess glue, just wipe it off. Not a big deal. Okay, that's the back anyway. No one's really going to see that. And the cool thing is now you've got that foam core in there. You can actually push down right here without worrying about warping it. And that looks pretty darn good. Okay, so now we can flip this up and we can actually press down on the rest of the tab here. Make sure that that is getting some contact. Okay, and now go ahead and close this up. We're going to put glue on the remaining tabs here, so we got to kind of work quick. As you're applying this glue, apply it a little bit thicker than you normally would, not too much, just a little bit, so it doesn't go drying on you too quick. And then I'm going to take my finger and get that glue out to the edge, nice and quick, all the way. Make sure you cover the entire section of the tab. That's going to be a problem area. I just know it. I didn't get enough glue on there, but that's okay. I'll show you how to fix that if it happens. And now we can go ahead and close it up and just do your best to get that aligned. You may need to slightly just nudge the sides in a little bit, and then as you're doing that, press down so that it's making good contact. This side here, I got a feeling that I'm gonna have to go in with my little scrap paper and just kind of clean it up a bit, and that's okay. But keep on applying pressure along the edge on all the sides. There we go. Okay. And that's actually not too bad. We'll see how it turns out here. I don't want to stop applying pressure just yet. I'm not sold on it. Okay, that looks good. That looks great. That looks great. Yeah, all right. Hey, not bad. That's a very solid base, and you can see we don't see any of the foam core in here, which is good. We need to save that. And now we're just gonna glue this piece right on top here. And this again is to kind of add a little more reinforcement. And also you'll notice that we have a series of little markers here, and that's gonna help us with the positioning of the actual house once we are ready for that. Okay, but for this, I can move this out of the way. We're gonna start applying glue to this surface, and I'm gonna kind of go heavy along the edges because I want to spread that glue out to the very edge, but don't overdo it. Okay, just like that. And yeah, that's not going to work. I'm going to do a line too. You know, the humidity is up, but the glue is kind of staying wet a little bit longer. Not much. Okay. All right, let's get this in place, and just a matter of lining it up. I'm using the little cutouts for the posts as my initial guide. Obviously don't want to obstruct those, and then obviously just take a look at the rest of it and just make sure that you've got it nice and centered. There we go. And just continue to press down along the perimeter especially. Okay, so we're going to start with the roof at this point. Okay, now before we do that, there are a few pieces that we need to glue down as far as the vellum goes. Okay, so we've got this piece here, and this is the corresponding vellum that goes with it. So we're just going to do, no one's going to see the inside of this, so don't worry too much about being perfect with your glue here. Just want to make sure that you cover up the actual cutout for the window. Okay, just like that. Do the same thing here. Clean that nozzle off. Just try to visualize what that vellum piece looks like. And then we'll pop that right into place. As long as it holds, that's all that matters. If you've got the edges of this kind of flailing around loose, it's not a big deal. Okay, we're gonna flip this over and we have this little overlay, and I'm just gonna put glue around the perimeter just so that I don't risk getting glue on my vellum. I think that'll hold it just fine, and try to keep it straight like that. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. And we're gonna put the shingles and all the details on after the main structure is all together. Okay, just like that. Take a look at it, make sure it's straight. There we go. Okay, beautiful. And now there is also this little section here, and this is the front of the house, the little overhang portion, and we're gonna put this piece of vellum. I've got a different color here. These are all yellow. The one on the front is gonna be clear. So let's do that. Maybe a drop in the center for good measure. Just make sure you're covering the cutouts. There we go. That'll work. Okay. All right, so we're going to take this piece, and these are identical, these two, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. First thing we're going to do is we're going to glue this into place here just to kind of create the overall structure. So what I would suggest doing is kind of putting this piece down flat, and we're going to pop it in like this and lift this up just so that we know that we have it up into that corner as far as it'll go. Okay, so let's start with some glue here on this tab. Spread that glue out nicely. Keep it clean. And pop that into place here. Literally building a little house. Okay, now I'm not putting any glue up there, but I am using it just to kind of make sure that I have it all the way out to that, or into that crevice there, that corner. Okay, also make sure that it's nice and aligned here on the edge, and then just press down on that tab inside. There we go, just like that. That looks great. Now I'm going to go over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to use this tab here and get our glue on there. Spread that out nice and thin. Gets it nice and tacky for us so that we don't spend an eternity waiting for it to dry. Okay, I'm holding this up, just kind of using it as a guide, just to make sure that I have it all the way up into that little corner. There we go. Just give that a little nudge out to the very edge. And there we go, perfect. Pressing down this tab here, this guy right here. Okay, perfect. That looks great. Maybe a little extra love down here. Okay, so now we can close this up by putting glue on the other tabs. Now, because we're closing it up, it may help to apply glue to both of these at the same time. Well, unless you're an octopus, you can't do it exactly at the same time, but you get what I'm saying. During this step, I should say. Okay, let's spread that out, nice and thin. Head over to the other side, spread that out. Try to get as much of that surface area as you can. Okay, I'm gonna bring this over. Get that nice and aligned. Press that down. Same thing with this side here. Get that nice and aligned. You can actually put that down on your surface if it helps. You know, it always helps me. I'm just pushing down from the inside. And if you don't get this completely perfect, it's okay, because the roof, the actual shingles of the roof, are going to kind of come off of this structure a little bit, and it'll hide any little imperfections that you may have. But do your best to get it as tight as possible. That looks great. Okay, can't complain on that. That looks great. Okay, so roof is almost done here. Okay, so this is the little extrusion part of the roof. These tabs here are going to be used to anchor this in, like so. Okay, so we can do this one of two ways. We can anchor it first, which I guess is okay, but what I think is a better idea is to actually construct this piece so that it's already taken on the correct shape. So what I'm going to do is, and again, you can take a look at it here. Okay, so you see how we've got a flat side and then a slanted side. The slanted side is going towards the back. We're going to glue this piece with the tab, because there's another piece that looks like this. Okay, this is not the correct piece. You want the piece with the tab. And we're going to glue this to this section here. Okay, so we can start with one tab just to get it anchored, and then the other tab will help sort of define the shape. So let's do that. Let's get our glue on just one of these tabs and get that nice and lined up, right up to the point, nice and centered. There we go. Beautiful. Right up to that point. Perfect. There we go. Okay, I can actually push that down on my table now that I have the tab in the correct spot. There we go. That looks good. And there's also going to be a piece covering this up, so don't really worry too much about if you are off by a smidge. It's not the end of the world. Okay, then we're going to put some glue on the next tab here. Spread that out nice and thin, all the way out to the edges. And we're going to bring that down and line that up with this edge here of this piece. Now I ink this, but actually I got this confused with this piece. That's why I inked it beforehand. You don't need to ink this piece. Don't even waste your time. It was good practice though, I guess. Okay, there we go. And now, again, these tabs here are going to be used to actually anchor this to the roof. So all we need to worry about at this point is this tab and this tab, and we need to tuck that in like so. We can actually pull this out this way. So one more tab here, and then one more tab on the other side. Get that nice and thinned out, tuck it under, and make sure that you're following the angle here. This is a 90-degree angle, so this should tuck in all the way, almost creating a box here. Okay, press that down into place. Perfect. And we'll do the same thing on this side. And just hit that with your finger. Tuck that behind. Get it nice and lined up. And I can move that tab out of the way if it helps. I'm just going to put that down on my surface and press that into place. Perfect. Okay, so now, as I mentioned, got a series of tabs here, and actually I think this one's going to go under. Let's see here. Let's pop this in. There we go. So you can see here from the inside where these tabs are going to go. This one's going to go here, and that one's going to go there, and these large ones are going to go right inside, up against the inside of this part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the larger tabs to really get this anchored into place, and then we'll worry about the smaller ones. Okay, so I'm going to start off by putting glue. Let me just make sure that these are nice and folded. I'm going to put some glue on this tab here. And then I'm also going to put glue on this one here. It may be difficult to get glue onto both of these unless we do them at the same time. So just go ahead and cover them up. And then worst case scenario, we can always paint a little extra glue on there if necessary. Okay, so just kind of slide it in and pull it out as far as it'll go. Make sure that the top of this is actually nice and flush with the very top here, and then you can start pressing that tab into place. Same with this one, and that looks good. Okay, so you got to kind of hold this up. There's no help from the table this time, unfortunately. That's okay though. I guess you can kind of do it like this. That helps. And just press that up against the inside of the roof. And it's all coming together nicely, I'd say. Okay, so now we'll put these in. Move this out of the way for a second. This tab here needs to get glued down to this little angle here. Just going to hit that with my finger and press that up against the inside and hold. There we go. And same with this. Put a little bit of glue right here. Now, I mentioned this a lot, but if you notice that I'm making more progress at a faster rate, it's likely because you may be using too much glue, so go easy on it. And also, you notice that I'm using my finger to thin it out. That also helps the drying time and the tacky time. Okay. All right, so now these pieces here, all these pieces are for this guy here. This is what we call a little skeleton piece. So we're going to pop this inside here, and this is going to help keep all these tabs on the same plane so that when we get ready to glue this to our soffit, it makes it a lot easier. So just make sure that it's tucked in there. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to start. I guess it doesn't really matter where you start, and this doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to make sure that it's nice and flush up against this little corner here where the tab and the actual roof meet. So I'm kind of pushing it down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on this tab here, and I'm going to bring that up and I'm going to push it up against this little skeleton piece. Okay, doesn't have to be perfectly centered. Again, this is just to kind of keep the tabs together so we have a surface to actually glue to once we get this all put together. Now I'm going to go over to the opposite side, and I'm going to put glue on this tab, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm kind of pulling that skeleton piece down as far as it'll go, and I'm gluing it to this tab. So now we've got it centered and in place, and the rest of these will go on very easily. Okay, so it doesn't matter where we start now. I'm going to actually come over here and go to this tab, and you can put that down on your surface and push that tab up against that little skeleton piece and get that glued down. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Throw a little bit of glue on that, nice and flat. And I'm just pushing this tab up against the little skeleton piece there that we just put in there. Okay. There we go. Okay, and that just leaves 4 more little tabs here. And now you can see how much strength that little skeleton piece added to this whole structure. It's great. Beautifully engineered by none other than Diana. And of course, kudos to Ron for a beautiful design. Okay, so we're just folding that one right over. And you'll notice how they pretty much meet perfectly right here. I'm doing exceptional work right now, as I'm sure you are as well. Okay, we'll fold that back, put the last little bit of glue on, and fold that over, and we have our roof. And that looks pretty much perfect, as good as I could possibly get it, I think. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is put together the soffit piece, and this is our soffit piece. There should be a little S right here on this tab. That's how you know it's the soffit. And it's kind of similar to the base. We're going to take and begin making this thing dimensional by putting glue on this little triangular tab here and joining it with the adjacent wall, or the adjacent side. Okay, I went pretty easy on the glue there. So we're gonna pull that in, line it up with this section here, and just press and hold for a few moments, let that set. Okay, so just making it dimensional. And I'm not gonna let go too soon this time. I know I kind of jumped the gun there before. All right, so now over to the next triangular tab here. And let's get some glue on there. And we're taking this and bringing it over, connecting it with the tab that we just put glue on. Hold that down, give it a few moments. There we go. Okay, looks good. That looks great. Okay, and just like we did with the base, we do have these 2 little sections here. You'll notice that, well, we've got a longer and a shorter section. You just want to make sure that you get it in the right spot. And also, I believe, yep, you could do it this way, but you don't want to do it this way. You'll notice that this tab is kind of cut out, and that's just so that it doesn't obstruct the little holes for the posts. So that is incorrect. You see how that tab is covering it up? That's why you need to use this piece instead. If we put this piece here, you'll notice that it's cut out so it does not obstruct this little post hole. Okay, so this piece will not work on this side. It will only work on this side. Make sure you grab the right one. That's all I'm trying to get to here. It's the only point I'm trying to make. Okay, so we got the long side here and the short side, a little cutout so that we don't obstruct the pole. And we are going to begin by anchoring it with the little triangular tab here. We'll do that first so that we know exactly where it needs to go based on this little connection. Okay, so I'm just taking that little tab and gluing it right there. And you can straighten this out if you want while you hold it in place. And just be patient here. This is going to be a pretty important little part. Okay, there we go. Got that in place, and now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to put glue on this little tab here that says S. And you want to put a little bit of glue on that thin area there as well. I'm going to get that glue out to the edges. Okay, there we go. And just line that up as accurately as you can along the very edge of this piece here. Okay, you can flip this tab up and press down from the inside. Try to get that little thin section down too. And there we go. Okay, so now you can pull this back. We're going to put glue on this little section, this tab, with the little square cut out so it doesn't obstruct the post holes. Get that glue on there. And we're literally just going to glue that right down to this section here. And if it helps, just put it down on your surface and then just press down on the tab inside there. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect. Okay, so that's what that should look like. And now we're going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. We'll start by anchoring this section with the little triangular tab. I don't know what they're doing out there, some kind of construction. Not on my house. Okay, so triangular tab is getting glued to this side here. Just pop that right in. You can actually do this straight if you want. Just pull this out and just look at the score mark there. Just make sure everything's nice and lined up and press and hold. There we go, beautiful. And we can flip this over. And again, we're going to put glue on this tab here with a little S on it. And make sure you get a little bit on that thin area. Spread that glue out to the very edges. This one's not too bad. Okay, and then just get that nice and lined up with the main piece here that we're connecting everything to. And press that tab down from the inside. Wish it was this easy to build a house, huh? Out of paper, that'd be cool. Probably burn it down though. Okay, there we go. And that just leaves this section here. We can pull this back so that we can get our glue on there. Don't forget that little thin area. And pull that glue out to the very edges, kind of tack it up, thin it out. Okay. And get that tab right onto the surface and press it down into place. There we go. Well, that worked out nicely. Okay, so now just need to close this up. We've got these two little triangular tabs here. So we can apply our glue to the tabs and tap it. And then go ahead and you can move this tab out of the way. And just press and hold that down. Make sure it's nice and straight. Give that a few seconds to set. Just joining these two sections together with that little triangular tab. And then same thing on the other side. Just line that up and press and hold. Okay, be patient. Move these tabs out of the way. Now I didn't crease these folds very well, and there's a little bit of resistance there, so I'm just going to go in and paint a little extra glue on these two little sections here and push those in and hold them so that they join nicely. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, now that we have the soffit piece constructed, again, this is the bottom where the posts go. This is the top. Now we have this piece with the R on it. It doesn't matter which way you put it, as long as the tabs are facing up. We're going to take this piece and we're going to glue it to this piece. Okay, and I think the best way to do this, so I have it down like this. I'm going to flip it around. Okay, I'm going to put glue on these three tabs, and we're going to glue this to this little R piece here. Give me just one sec here. Spread that glue out to the very edges, get that nice and precise. Tack it up a little bit. Okay, and as I mentioned, I want the tabs, doesn't matter at this point, but we're going to take this and we're going to glue this front piece down as accurately as we can. Get it nice and aligned right there. Okay. Make sure that, there we go. Okay. Just press that down into place. Okay. Now these tabs here, these are the tabs that are going to go into the house once we have it constructed. But we're working on this right now. Just focus on this. Okay, so now that we have that, we can kind of pull this back and we're going to put glue on the remaining tabs here. Okay, and now when you put this down, you'll notice that on this piece with the R, that there are a series of little markers here and here. That should match up with the corners of these two sections here. And that's how you know you've got it in the right spot. Okay, so I'm going to pull this back like so. And we're going to get glue on the remaining tabs here. A lot of surface area to cover, so try to be as expeditious as you can. I'm going to do a nice thin line right out to the edge. Okay, I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edges. There we go. I need a little bit more there. Perfect. And then you can just take this and press it down and just make sure that you have it lined with these little markers here. Okay, just like that. And then press that down. You can actually get your hand in there. Okay, and press that down. You can actually stick a little dowel through here to push that down. As long as most of it is making contact, that's all we really need to worry about. Okay, there we go. And just for extra measure, what we're going to do, again, just make sure that these corners are nice and flush. And the front is nice and flush as well. Looks good. Okay, these 3 tabs in here, this is just for a little extra security. We're going to put some glue on these tabs. And then we're going to fold them over onto the inside here. And just press that down. Same with this one. Just press that down. And this one here. Just press that down. Kind of overlapping tabs here. That's going to lock it in nice and tight. Okay, here we go. Again, and these 4 tabs that are left here, these are going to go into the house to anchor the rest of this all together. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now we've got this section here. This section is going to get glued to the roof, like so. Okay, so all we need to do at this point is put some glue around the perimeter of our roof. And I'm going to do a little curly Q here around, and then I'm going to do a thin line around the perimeter as well, and spread that glue out all the way to the very edges. I'm going a little bit heavier than usual here. So we've got a lot of surface area that we need to make sure. It's kind of awkward to hold. It's okay. Just do your best. And again, remember, we're going to be covering up a lot of this stuff with additional pieces. And this is mostly just structural right now. So don't worry too much if it's imperfect. Okay, let me get that excess glue off my fingers. We'll take this, and we're just going to glue that right on. Like so. Just get that nice and lined up throughout and start pushing the little sections into place. Okay, all the way around. And if we have any little areas that maybe are not sitting flush, we can always go in and use our little painting method to get it to sit even more flush. Okay, just keep working around the perimeter here. Just like that. These sides here, we're going to kind of see those, so it's important that we get those nice and flush. The front and the back is going to be covered by some shingles. Now, I have a gap here that I'm not very fond of, so I'm going to take my glue with a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to tuck that in there, and I'm going to paint some extra glue on this section and press and hold that down to really get that to look as seamless as possible. And I'm going to keep holding that. Okay, so that's the main structure there. We got the soffit, got the roof all in place, and this is going to go into the house once we're all done actually assembling the house. Not a big deal. Okay, just going to keep holding that for a few extra seconds. Okay, now if you have some gaps between your soffit and the bottom of the roof and you don't like it, you can certainly just do what I'm doing right now and paint a little extra glue in between those sections. Now this looks great now. That's nice and solid because this piece is going to go here. It's going to cover it up, but I wanted it to be as close together as possible. So that looks great. And again, as I mentioned, if you do have some gaps between the roof and the soffit, you can just grab a scrap piece of paper and just kind of paint a little bit of glue in between any of these little problem areas and just press that down and hold it just to make it look a little more seamless. Okay, so I'm gonna probably say that I'm okay with that because looking at it from this vantage point, you don't really see that too much. So, okay, that looks good. Now this little piece here is just a little reinforcement piece that's going to get glued on just like this. Okay, so what we want to do, you can actually put the glue on this section here. Let me clean off my nozzle here before I make a huge mess. And it's just to sturdy it up a little more. Going along the perimeter first. Okay. And just pop that into place. Make sure that you're not obstructing the little cutouts for the posts. Get that nice and centered. And just press that down all the way around the perimeter. There we go. Just like that. Okay, that is sitting nice and flat. There we go. You can actually stick your fingers in there a little bit, press that down along the center. And there we go. Okay. So there's our roof. And now what we can go ahead and do is work on the main structure of our house here. Now before we do that, we have a series of vellum and windows that we need to apply. Let me grab the rest of our vellum pieces and our windows, and we've got a door. So we'll get those all in place. Now as far as the vellum goes, the vellum's going to go on the inside, so you can flip this over. We have one large piece that's going to go right here. So I'm just going to do little dots. Don't get it too close to the cutouts, because then it may kind of leak onto the visible part of our vellum. We don't want that. Okay, so that goes like that. And then probably go smaller dots if possible. like that. Pop that into place. And let's see here. Just like that. Okay, moving along here. If you get maybe too big of a piece of glue there, just dab it with your finger, thin it out so it doesn't go spreading into the visible part of the window. Like that. There we go. Let's get the rest of this vellum in place. After that, it's like the main crew is here putting together the main part of the house, and then the roofers are going to come in and put the roof on. And then we come in, even though we're doing all of it, we come in and get to pretty it up by building a porch, adding flowers, all that good stuff. That's the fun part. Well, all of it's fun. I know, I think I understand how sometimes you guys feel a little intimidated by some of these pieces, but trust me when I say, as long as you follow along, step by step, one thing at a time, you can do it too. This is actually my first time putting this one together as well. I have a prototype over here that I completely dismantled just so that I could see how the prototype was done. And now I'm passing that along to you. So yeah, I've never made this before, but I know that I have some of the best artists in the business, and that Diana, when she engineers Ron's design, is going to do a very good job. Okay, so what am I missing here? Nothing, actually. Everything is good. We'll flip this over. Now this is the back, these are the sides, and this is the front. So the only difference is that this is our door. Okay, that's going to go there. So let's get that glued down. And just make sure that when you put this down, that the bottom of this is nice and flush and that it's not below the score mark here. As long as you line this up with the cutouts for the window, you should be okay. But just for good measure, I would double check and make sure that is not going below this section here, and that looks perfect. So that worked out nicely. Okay, and we have our beautiful windows. I'm going to do one here and one there, and we're only putting glue on the center part. The actual these guys here, the name is escaping me, the shutters. We're not putting glue on the shutters. I guess technically you could, but I kind of like how when they're open like that, it makes it look nice and dimensional. So might as well take advantage of that. Okay. And I'm just doing this while everything's flat. It just makes it easier. You can push down on your surface. Don't have to worry about warping the structure. Okay, there we go. That's in place. Beautiful. Got a little fuzzy in there. I'll get that out later. That's fine. Okay, but you get the picture here. I'm going to flatten this out. Okay, let's go. This is the back. The back has just these little simple pieces of trim. Doesn't have the full-size windows with the little shutters. Okay, so just match that up with the cutout. Just like that. Press that down. I'll do the other one. Now there's a little door that goes on here. I'm going to put that on later, just in case I need to get my hands inside during assembly. That can wait. So we'll put that on later. We'll just focus on getting the structure built right now and getting this thing connected to the roof. And then we'll put all of this down onto the base. Okay, so that one's done. And we've got two more on the sides here. So let's do that. Get our glue on the center part of the window. Did a little too much there. You're gonna just line it up with the little cross there. Nice and centered. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, don't forget we're not putting glue on the little shutters there. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so now just need to put these sections together. So we've got, go like this, we've got the front, we'll do one of the sides, then the back, and then the other side, and then we'll join it all together. So we can start here with this tab. Go ahead and get your glue on this guy here. Okay. Whoops. And just get that lined up as accurately as you can. Make sure it's nice and level at the top. Okay, and you can actually fold it over onto itself and just feel the edge there. Now you'll notice these tabs here. See how there's an angle here? When we put that on there, it should match up perfectly. That means that you've got it aligned as accurately as you can, actually. Okay. So there we go. Looks good. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to join this to this. So let's get our glue on this tab. And spread that glue out to the very edges. Can put that down flat for now, just for starters. Oops. Just like that. Just to get it somewhat attached. Then I'll take it and fold it over onto itself. And you can see these tabs here line up perfectly. Check the top, make sure that's nice and flush. There we go. Okay, beautiful. And that just leaves this guy here. So let's get our glue on this tab here. Spread that glue out. And get this guy connected. Here we go. You can put that down flat and press, and then go ahead and fold it over onto that seam. You can press down again. You can see the tabs lining up perfectly. Beautiful, nice and straight up at the top there. Press that down, and that just leaves this tab to this tab. So let's do that. Flip this over. Spread that glue down to the very edge. Okay, and you can actually put this down flat and just press that down. Okay, so roof and soffit are all together. We've got the house mostly constructed. Now what I'm going to do is, well, this is right side up, this is upside down. I'm moving the tabs out of the way, okay? And that's going to help us get our hand in there, because what we need to do, we're going to take the roof and just kind of put it at an angle so it's sitting flat. Now remember, this is the front door, this is the front of the house, so we want to make sure that it's facing forward. And there's 4 tabs in there. We're going to use those 4 tabs to connect the house to the roof and the soffit. Okay, so I'm going to start by anchoring the front of it here. So I'm going to take some glue and just put it on this tab. Okay, again, make sure the front door is facing forward and that you have it, don't put it upside down, okay? Don't want to do it this way. You want to do it this way so that the tabs are facing you, or towards you, I should say. Make sure that all 4 of the tabs are inside of the house. take this first tab and start pushing it up against the inside of the house. Make sure you've got it nice and centered in there. And just go ahead and press that down. Press that tab right down onto, there we go. Okay, so you can see that tab there, that one right there, that one right there. And just make sure that it's making good contact throughout. And does that look centered? Yes, it does. Good. Okay. So the first tab, we've got it anchored. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tab here, that guy right there. We'll put some glue on this one. Don't need a lot. It's just to kind of hold it in place. Okay, make sure that the sides are nice and centered. And then you can take this tab, and we're going to fold it up against the inside of the structure here. Now I'm going to take a look at it from the back while I press this down. You can actually get your thumb out this little hole. See, I told you that it was a good idea not to put that little door in there yet. There we go. Get that in place. If you want to use a little dowel to kind of push right up along the little crevice there. And there we go. So now that tab is in place. That just leaves these two side tabs. Just throw a little bit of glue there, a little bit of glue there. And we're going to take and fold this tab up against the inside here. Just make sure that that's up as high as it'll go as you're pressing down on the tab here. I'm pushing in here, I'm pushing this way from the inside and kind of nudging it upward as well. Okay, there we go. And same thing on this side. We're going to take this tab and push it up against the inner wall of the house, the right side of the house. And just press that into place. Okay, beautiful. Awesome. Okay. All right, so that's that. And now we can put the bottom on. Pretty much done with the construction of the house, and now comes the fun part. So we're going to put the bottom on here. I'm going to start by anchoring it to the front, which means that we're putting glue on this tab here. And then we'll do the other three tabs here in just a moment. Nice thin line out to the edge. And take and spread that glue out to the very edge. And we'll take this bottom piece and get that nice and centered right out to the score marks there. There we go, and just press that down into place. Now if you want, you can actually put this down flat on your surface and press down on the tabs here, on the tab, not tabs, just one tab. Okay, so you can see that's in place now, connected to this tab. And then all that leaves is to apply glue to the remaining three tabs here and to close it up. Okay, nice thin line along the edge. Spread that glue out. No one's really going to see the bottom of this, but hey, come this far, might as well make it look real nice. Okay, so let's close this up. Focus on getting this side, this edge, aligned with this section here. Just get it nice and centered. If you need to kind of pull this out a little bit, it's okay. Paper is not as stiff as you would think sometimes. There we go. Nudge that wall in a bit, as with that one. There we go. And just continue to run your fingers along the seam here, the perimeter. You can flip this down now and actually push down on the tabs from the inside. Make sure that we're getting as much of that surface holding this down. And there we go. Now the front is kind of drooping a bit. It's okay. I'm going to keep holding that until that glue is nice and set. Now you're thinking, how are we going to get these posts in here? Well, you'll see. It's actually not as bad as you think. And it's going to require absolutely no glue. Okay. All right. So that's that. And now what we can do is, there's a lot of possibilities here. I'm going to put this little door in place real quick. And you'll see that there are two little markers here. That helps you with the positioning of the door. Okay, and all we're going to do is put glue on the little tab here. And I'm going to spread that glue, try to cover the entire tab, especially out to the edges. Get that lined up with the little markers there. Okay, just press that into place. If it helps, you can actually fold this down so that you can press down from the inside as well. There we go. And this is where our little Velcro dots come in handy. Got some Velcro dots here. I'll peel back one side to expose the sticky. Put that right there. Now we can peel back the other half, or the other backing on the other half. Well, that didn't work out. There we go. Just peel that off. I'm going to put this right onto the other half and then pop it on there. It should stick to the paper. And voila. Okay. So we've got that. All right, moving on. Okay, so next we're going to take the house and we're going to glue it to the base. You'll notice on the base that there's a series of little markers. Now it's very important that we get these, or we get the actual house within those markers. That's going to be important to make sure that these posts go into the correct spot. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put glue on the bottom of our structure here. Okay, and going extra heavy on the glue here because I want to get that glue out to the very edges so everything looks nice and seamless. I'm going to paint that glue out. There we go. Okay, and just a little bit in the center just to kind of help it. All right, so pop this on there. Make sure that you have it within the little markers there. Everything is nice and aligned. Take a look at the back and just give it a little nudge wherever it needs to go. There we go. If it's off by a little hair, it's not the end of the world, but that's ideally what you want to do. Now I'm going to open up the back door. I'm going to kind of push down right by the front door. Now remember, we've got that that foam core in there, and that's going to help us be able to really push this down into place without ruining the base. Okay, looks good. Nice and solid. Wonderful. Okay, it looks straight. Everything looks very flush. Okay, looks good. I love it. All right, so now there's a few things that we're going to want to glue down beforehand just to make it easier, especially like this little rug. I'm going to glue this down like so. Because once we get the posts in, the rug's right there. Once we get the posts in, it may be a little more difficult to actually stick that in there. So I just decided that I'm going to put this down now, and then we're going to we'll put the posts in last, go ahead and get your glue on the rug. I don't know if you really need to get it all the way out to the little frills. I think that's fine. Just make sure you get it nice and centered on the door. I'll show you here in a second. I know it's sitting flat and you can't really see it, but I'm kind of tucking it under a little bit, just slightly. Okay, just like that. That looks great. Okay, and now we're gonna work on the roof and then we'll work on the porch. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the back of the roof. And the back has just a series of solid pieces. Let me get all these pieces out so that I can help you kind of sort out what's what. One second here. Okay, so obviously this part here is for that section there. And then what we've done here, we've done it like a two-toned thing, okay? And so these are gonna go here, so that's the front, and then this is obviously also the front. That's gonna go, where does that go? Oh, it goes like this, right there. Okay, so this, and this are all for the front. This is for the back, and as you can see here with the two-tone, I've got a darker, a lighter, and a darker, so the lighter is gonna go in the middle. Okay, so we need to remember that when we're putting the roof on the back. So we're gonna go dark, then we're gonna go light, and then we're gonna go dark. Now, it may be helpful at this point, because I do wanna add some dimension to these little shingles. Just take a dowel and just curl these back a little bit. You can always go back in and add a little more curl to these after the fact, but it's a lot easier when you have it in your hand. Now also, you'll notice that there's a series of score marks on the roof. That is to help you with the placement. So you want the edge of this butting up against those score marks. And then you'll also notice that there's a series of score marks on the actual shingles. Okay, and those are to help you with the centering of this piece. Okay, so all we need to do at this point is we need to just get our glue. I'm gonna put it on the roof instead of on the shingles so that I know where it needs to go as far as the glue goes. And then what I'm also gonna do is put a little bit of glue just at the very top of this within the little score marks. And I'm gonna paint that glue out to the very edge so that it sits nice and flat. Okay, and so this is the darker one. Again, make sure you use the little score marks, line it up there, and then also make sure you get it centered using the little score marks there on the sides. That looks perfect, just like that. Okay, next we're gonna go with the lighter color. And while I have it here, I'm just gonna take and curl these back just a tad. Okay, and that's going to cover up the first layer like so. So I would keep my glue just above the other one. You don't want to get any glue on there. And then don't forget, put a little bit of glue right at the top of this. And now this one doesn't have any markers because we already have the first one in place. And we know that we have it centered, so we don't have any markers on this one. And that's nice because it covers up the markers on the previous layer. Okay, so just make sure you get that centered using the one below it, and then press that down into place right up against those little score marks on the actual roof structure. There we go. Perfect. Just like that. Looks good. Okay, and the last one, this one's gonna go right up to the top. Make sure you get it centered. So let's get our glue right up here. And then I'm gonna do a nice thin line right along the very top. Spread that glue out. just like that. Again, using the previous section to get it centered and nice and flush with the peak of the roof. Press that down into place. And we have a little section here, this thing's gonna kind of cover it up and add another layer of shingles, but we need to do the other side of this first. Okay, so there we have it. The back of the roof is done. That looks great. Now we can do the front, but we're actually gonna start at the bottom. Okay, so find this piece, and that's gonna go like this, so we can actually do one side at a time. Okay, you can take and curl these up. There we go. And we're gonna put glue on the actual roof, all the way down to the bottom, and then just a nice thin line right at the top. And pop that into place. Okay, so first piece is in place. Now remember, this does not have any markers here, but as long as you get it as far over left as you can, you know you've got it in the right spot. So now we're going to grab this piece, and this piece is going to go here. And of course, while we have it, we may as well bring these little scallops out a little bit. And we're going to apply our glue just below the little score mark. Okay, and then of course, just a nice thin line right at the top. Spread that out. There we go. And pop that into place, like so. Use those little score marks to help you with the alignment. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. All right. So next section here, we've got these pieces, and these are going to go right here. Of course, just make sure that when we put this one on, that you have it aligned here as well. Okay, so I'm going to put glue right here on the roof. Just keep it within the little score mark boundaries. Forgot to flare these back a bit. Just do that real quick. Nice thin line right at the very top. Spread that out. Okay, and again, look at the horizontal score marks there, line it up with that. Get that in place, and then also make sure that it's aligned here on the side. Just like that. Beautiful. Go over to the left side. It's really coming together. This is definitely one of the more involved pieces, but as I always say, kind of goes back to Rome wasn't built in a day. Anything that takes a little bit of extra time usually ends up being more of a statement or kind of one of those wow pieces. And I think that's what we have on our hands here. Okay, so just right up to the score mark. You want to kind of cover it, just barely. Okay, and bring it over to the left a little bit if necessary, just to make sure that it's aligned with the previous layer. There we go. That looks good. And now for the top, it's going to go like that. We want to make sure that we bring it all the way up to the top. Okay. And again, while I have this, I'll take and peel these back a little bit. Just taking it and putting it between my finger and the dowel, and then curling it towards me just ever so slightly. If you go too far, you'll end up ripping it, so be very gentle with this process here. Okay, and just put the glue on this whole section here. And then I'm going to do a nice thin line right along the very top. And spread that all the way out to the very edge. Okay. There we go. And right to the peak of the roof, make sure you've got it centered, and that lines up nicely. Perfect. All right. Press that down. Okay. So there's that. And now, as I mentioned, we've got this piece here, and what we need to do is we need to glue this back to back. I didn't actually fold this yet. Go ahead and fold this at the score mark. You can actually fold it down onto itself a little bit. Like that. Okay. Do the same thing with the other half. There we go. Just like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these back to back, just with the scallop portion with the cutouts. We're going to glue that together, back to back, and then we'll put glue on this whole thing and pop it up on top. So I'm going to begin by just putting glue on, again, the scalloped part with the cutouts, like that. Just go easy on the glue here. Don't need to overdo it. Nice thin line right along the straight part. And you can actually use your table if you want to just kind of get these back to back, like so. Make sure they're lined up as accurately as you can get them. Just like that. Okay, see what we got there. Beautiful. Okay, so that's what we have. You can actually put that down flat like this if you want to. Give that an extra press. And now we're going to put some glue along the inside here. You can definitely put a thin line right down the center so it sticks to the peak of the roof, and then we'll just do. You don't want to put glue all the way down the scallops here. Actually, yeah, you know what? That's fine. These are not going to be sticking out, it's just the layers below it. So we can actually bring the glue all the way down to the scallop there. Don't have to cover the whole thing, just a little bit is fine. There we go. Okay, now we're going to pop this on, make sure that it's centered and right on the peak of the roof. And press that down into place. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so you can see what that looks like from that angle there. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab this piece. This is going to go here. Okay, and these angles here, these are at 90 degrees. So what we're going to do is we're going to put just a little bit of glue on just the top half of this section. We can, I mean, if you put it on the whole thing, that's fine, because ultimately this will all be covered up. But to glue this section to this section, we only really need to put glue on this little guy here. Okay, and we're going to tuck that behind this section here. And we just want to make sure that this is a 90-degree angle here. And that's how we know that we've got it in the correct spot. That looks about 90 degrees. If you're not sure, you can use your little mat. This is a 90-degree angle here. So just make sure that that looks nice and straight. And it does. I'll put a little bit of glue on this guy here. Tuck that behind this thin little section. And again, 90 degrees. Just like that. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and we're going to glue this to one side, like so. And that should meet right at the peak there, like that. So what we can do is put glue on this whole section here, this tab. We'll do one side at a time. Spread that glue out nicely. Okay. And just get that glued right to the face. Make sure it's nice and lined up there at the top. There we go. Just like that. You can actually put that down on your surface if you want. Press it down. Now, move over to the other side. and get the glue on this section. And spread that out nice and thin. Okay. And tuck that behind, line it up. And there we go. Press that down into place. So now we have the overall shape of this little section. Okay, and this is actually going to go right on here, like so. I'm just going to slide that into place. Okay, we also have this piece here, but I'm going to hold off on putting this on because a little bit of it kind of sticks off, and I don't want to ruin it while I'm putting the rest of this on. But before we put this on, we do want to get this piece glued down right here. Okay, just want to make sure that we get it nice and centered with the peak of the roof. Okay, and this may look strange to you, but it's actually by design. It's supposed to be off a little bit. So don't worry about that, but go ahead and get your glue on the back of this piece. And let's get that glued into place. This is the little piece with the siding that we did earlier with the embossing. Okay. And just focus on getting it centered with the peak of the roof. It should be nice and flush on the bottom as well. Just run your fingers along the perimeter, give it a nice little press in the center. There we go. Okay, so with this section here, what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on the roof here, as well as here, and go towards the back slightly, that's fine. And then what you want to do is put a little bit of glue on this tab and this tab on the inside. Don't overdo it. Just a little bit on both sides, and I'm actually going to dab that with my finger a little bit to thin it out. Spread it out nice and thin, just like that. Okay, we're going to take this, and you want to start at the bottom. You got to make sure that you slide it over this little section here. So get it on there, slide it on, and then just push it back as far as it'll go. Okay, press that down into place. And then also push along the sides here to make sure that that makes good contact. Just like that. And there we go. So that part should be in place now. And then we just have one more little section, one little panel that we need to put right over this. And that's going to kind of cover up and make all this look nice and seamless. Okay, so got this piece in place. Now we just need to put the little panel on. Getting a little bit of just some little stickies off of the roof here. Okay, so you can see this piece. We're going to push that all the way back just to cover up any little imperfections we may have. Now what I'm going to do is when I put the glue on, I'm actually not going to put glue all the way at the edge of this because if necessary, we want it to kind of lift up a little bit. But we will put glue around the rest of this, so up to about there, as well as along the side. We're building a house out of paper. Bound to have a few imperfections here and there, so we do our best to kind of cover things up as we go. Okay, so just press that down to about here, and there we go. Make sure you get the front of it down nicely, and you can see how seamless that looks. Okay, there we go. That looks great. Perfect. Okay, so while we're here, now that we have that in place, we can definitely get this little guy glued down like so. Okay, so let's get some glue on the back of him or her. And we don't need to put too much glue up towards the top because some of that is sticking off. So just about like that is good. And we just want to match this up with the existing little cutouts here. accidentally got some glue right there. Just rub that off before it dries. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, look at that. Really starting to come together here. All that is done, which means that we're ready to put our posts in. Okay, we should have a total of 6 of them. And really, at this point, I'm going to start here in the center. So what you're going to do is you can actually stick this in. You're going to lift this up a little bit, just to kind of create a little bit of a gap there. Try to get that in through the bottom first, and then just slide that in. And we don't even need to glue these. Just stick them in. They should stay nice and solid. Okay. Just as long as you get it through the bottom or the top first, doesn't matter. Okay, I poked mine through the bottom first. I'm going to lift this up just slightly, and then just pop it through the top like that. And then if you want, you can then push them down so that they're flush with the bottom. Okay, but you can see how easy that is. We don't even need to use glue here. You can if you want. You can put glue on one of the sides if you want. I don't really think it's necessary. They really shouldn't go anywhere. Okay, just be careful when you're poking this through to kind of hold it firmly. There we go. And then just pop it right through, and then press it down. Moving right along here. There we go. Just give that a little nudge up, and then pop that through. Look at that. Those posts really just take it over the top, don't they? Okay, just poking it through, lifting it up slightly, and then you can just pop it down. And the last one, poke that through, lift this up slightly, get it centered, and press down. And there we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Perfectly centered. Looks like we had a very high quality architect on the job here. Okay, so now we have 2 different sections here. We've got a little top section that's going to go right up here, and then we have a little fence. Okay, and the fence, the way this is going to work is we're actually going to glue it behind the little posts here. Okay, so that's going to get glued like that, and then this section here is going to get glued to the house. So it's going to sit like that. Okay, so what I would suggest doing, I'm gonna prop this up like this so y'all can see it. I'm gonna put a little bit of glue just on this thin little tab here, and we're gonna get that anchored to the back of the house first. Okay, so you can see I folded that tab, and that tab is actually gonna go behind the post, and that little tab is gonna go flush along the side of the house, or actually it's gonna make contact on the front of the house. Okay, if you need to, grab a thin little dowel or something, doesn't really matter, as long as you can get it in there to help press that down against the inside. And actually, you know what you could do is you can just literally take this and fold it flat and then press that down up against the side of the house. It's got to be flush with that, so the little tab is just up against the front of the house. Okay, next, we're going to take and put some glue on this little area here in between these 2 little cutouts, just like that, just a little bit right there. Okay, you can see how it looks kind of glossy right there. And we're going to take that and we're going to glue that up against the back side of this post, just like that. Okay, so you have a little gate there and it's glued there. And now we can take and bend this down and just throw a little bit of glue right at the very tip of that section there. So you'll see, hopefully you can see, there you go. This is very awkward for me, but I'm doing it for you. Just a little bit of glue right on the edge of that, and the back of that is gonna go up against the little post there in the center, just to the right of the door. Okay, there you go, just like that. Try to make sure that it's nice and level. Beautiful. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to start by putting glue on this tiny little tab. And I'm gonna make it nice and thin so that it sticks nice and quick. Okay, pop that in. Get that nice and flush up against the face of the house. Okay, I'm gonna take just something thin. You can actually probably poke it through. Well, I'm gonna do it from up here just to be safe. Just give that a press. If you can get your finger in there, by all means, you can use your finger. I'm just showing you that you can use little tools if it helps. Okay, now I'm gonna pull this back to expose this little area here. And then we'll take it and push it up against the back side of this post. And I'm gonna put this down flat while I do that. Wouldn't it be cool if it was really that easy to build a fence for your house? Boy, that'd be great. Okay, and then last here, we've got this little area right at the edge of that part of the fence. I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue right on that surface. And I'm gonna push that up against the post. Just make sure that it's nice and level. And there we go. Okay, so we've got both of the little fences in place here. And now we've got this little section, and basically it's gonna go the same way, but we're going up here. I forget what these are called. Okay, but you can see same concept, but those are gonna go right up there. So we're gonna start off with this little tab here. So once we have the glue on this little tiny tab, you can actually just take it, and you can do it this way initially. Just line up the score mark with the edge of the house and press that down and just hold it. Okay, because you'll see here, we can then tuck that in and through. Just make sure that we have it nice and aligned with the very edge of the house. It's kind of a delicate little piece, so take your time. And if necessary, just grab a little tool and push down. Get that into place like that. I actually just have it completely flat up against the building. I only put the glue on that little tab though, nothing else. But I'm putting it down flat like this because it just makes it easier to get your finger on that tab, even though you're pushing from outside, and that's okay. All right, so now I'm gonna take this and peel it back, or bring it back, and it's gonna go right up against the back of that pole. So an easy way to access the area where we need to put glue is just by flattening it out, and you're gonna put glue right in this section that doesn't have that little fence post thing. And I'm just gonna push that up against the inside. You can get your finger in there and just press that up against the little post. You know, it's really hard for me to, well, maybe this is a good angle for you guys. There you go. And I'm just pushing that up against the back side of this post, and that looks good. And that just leaves that little piece there. I'm pointing to it right there is where we're gonna put our last bit of glue. Just a tiny bit, you don't need a lot. It's a very delicate piece. You can see where I put the glue, right at the tail end, right there, the tail end of this little piece. And then we're gonna press that up against the back of the center post, the one that's right by the door. Okay, and that is what it should look like at the top there. And look from the side and the front. Okay, looks great. Okay, so that just leaves the last side here. I'm gonna put it like this for you guys. And you can actually tuck that tab underneath. It's right here. Drop a little bit of glue on it. Just a very small amount. You don't need a lot here. Okay, and I'm actually gonna feed it in this way. I've kind of discovered this is an easier way of doing it. The tab is going on the face of the front of the house. And I'm just pressing it down. I'm actually pressing down on the tab. It's hidden behind this front facing section here. Okay, so the tab is actually behind here. I put the glue on it. but I'm just pressing down from here, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. Okay, give that a few seconds to set. Wonderful. And now we're going to put glue on this middle section here where you don't see the little posts. Just a tiny little bit of glue. Then we're going to pull this back and press it up against the back of the post. Make sure it's nice and flush on the side. There we go. So that is ultimately what we're going to end up with there. Okay. And then we can take and push that down, and you see the very tail end of this little section. I'm going to throw just a little bit of glue on there, like so. And we're going to press that up against the back side of the center post, just to the right of the door. And there we go. That's it. Okay, beautiful. All right, so all that's left now is we've got that guy there. We've got a couple planters, and we have some grass. I'm going to put this down like so. Now our grass, long side goes on the front, short side along the side. So all we need to do is just put a little bit of glue. Let me clean this off. Just need to put a little bit of glue along the very base of this. Okay, short side is going along the short side, and the long side right up against the front. Make sure it's nice and flush with the bottom, just like that. Do the same thing with the other one. Just put some glue along the very base and pop that in place. Again, making sure it's flush with the bottom. There we go. Beautiful. Got that. We're going to need some foam squares. I'm going to put this just below the hearts. We don't want to obstruct the hearts. So we're going to need at least maybe 1 or 2 layers of foam squares to keep this up. And then we're just going to glue that down. And actually, you may not even need to glue it down. So let me grab some foam squares here. Where are my little foamies? Hey guys, you ready to do some work? And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to put the foam squares right here, right below that little part that extrudes out. We'll do 2 layers there, and then I'll do 2 layers on the other side. Because, well, they're not at the same height, but that should pretty much get them pretty even now. Okay, and this guy here is going to go right about like that. And those 2 are just enough to hold that in place. That's beautiful. And that just leaves, we've got this little piece here. It's going to go on top right here. That goes right there. So just make sure you throw a little bit of glue on this piece and get that in place. And that just leaves our little planters. And our house is complete. I'm actually very pleased with the outcome. Beautiful design, beautiful engineering, and not too shabby of an assembly, if I do say so myself. I'm sure yours is going to look just as good, if not better. I am actually looking forward to turning this into a nice little Halloween house. I think that would be cool. And then the planters, I think I'm going to put them right about there, and we can actually just throw a little bit of glue right in that spot, and then we'll do one here. That should be more than enough. And let's see here. Take a look at this. I'm gonna go with that like that. Just make sure the planter is nice and flush with the base so that it doesn't accidentally come off because you put it down. So that's going there. There we go. And the other one, try to keep it nice and symmetrical if you can. And Yeah. That's it, man. Beautiful. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Okay, so all that's left to do, I have a little bit of bling that I'm going to add to this, but in my pocket here, I've got, where are you? I don't know why it's in my pocket. I'm going to open up the back, put a little electronic light in there, and turn her on. Let's see what color. It's a nice natural color. I think you'll see it a lot better when it's dark, but you can see, or can you? Oh, there you go. Yep. So you can see the little front door illuminating, at least for now. This light is almost dead. Doesn't matter. So aside from the assembly here, off camera in just a moment, I'm going to add a few little pearls and rhinestones. I want to put one here, I think, right on the front, and just kind of jazz it up however you want. Add your little touch to it after all said and done. But overall, yeah, a little bit of a challenge, but we all love challenges, especially because we know that when something's challenging, it's always going to come out looking awesome. And I have to say that I'm very pleased with the outcome, and I hope you are too. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the process. If you did, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the little bell so that you get notifications anytime we release a new product, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the almost 30,000 other dreamers that inspire us. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in this little URL here at the bottom of your screen. But yeah, boy, if I could just build houses like this, like real houses. That real estate market's hot right now. Boy, we could make a killing, huh? Anyway, I had a blast. I hope you did too, and I look forward to crafting with you again.